Hello, my name is David Albers. I'm one of the athletic trainers working in the Motion Health program. I want to thank you for attending the Upper Extremity Mobility Workshop. A little bit about the shoulder. It is a very dynamic joint, has a very large range of motion, but with that we find that it can also be easily injured. So a lot of those injuries happen to take place at what we call those end ranges of motion. So what we want to do today is show you a couple exercises that's going to help you establish a better flexibility in your shoulder joint, but also help you establish much better control over all that flexibility in your shoulder joint. Let's get started. So our first exercise is going to be a quadruped shoulder blade CARS. CARS stands for Controlled Articular Rotations. If you're not familiar with controlled articular rotations, I'd encourage you to attend the Total Body CARS workshop as well, as you'll get much more familiar with those. Real quick before we start, I want to tell you a few things. First is that we want to keep total body tension. That means Rebecca's going to be having her entire body very rigid as she's moving her shoulder blades around. Second is that she's going to be moving in a very controlled manner, and I want you to do the same. Everything is very slow and controlled. Lastly, you're going to find some spots that are going to be a little tight. Those tight areas are the ones that I really want you to work into. So, for the shoulder blade CARS, you're going to want to keep your elbows locked. You can take your elbow pits and rotate them so they're facing forward. That'll help keep your elbows nice and straight. What's going to happen first? From this position, she's going to push her shoulder blades forward like she's trying to push the floor as far away as she can. Then she's going to roll her shoulders up to her ears. And while she's up there, she's going to slowly let her shoulder blades come back towards her mid-back. And then she's going to pull her shoulder blades down like she's trying to push them into her back pocket. Okay? And then she's going to return to that pushed forward position. Now let's go through one more time. Pushing shoulder blades forward, then up to the ears. Then you're going to let them sink back towards your spine. And then you're going to pull them down towards your back pocket. Good. We're going to go the opposite direction now. So she's going, and from the pushed forward position, she's going to pull them down towards her back pocket, let them sink back towards her mid-back, up towards her ears, and then push them forward again. Good. Down into your back pocket, up to your mid-back, towards your ears, and then pushing forward again. This is really important. You're going to feel a lot of tightness possibly around the shoulder blade area, even in the mid-back. Really work into those tight areas. This is not something we do very often. We do not disassociate our shoulder blades from the rest of our body. It's very important to be able to let those shoulder blades move along the ribs very easily and with control. Our next exercise is actually three positions three positions put together here. Real quick, anytime you're going to be face down doing any kind of exercise like this, there's two things that you really need to remember. The first one is that your forehead needs to be on the floor the whole time. That's going to help keep your neck in a really safe position. Second thing is that as you're doing these exercises, before you do any lifting or moving, you're going to want to flex the butt muscles, and that's going to help make sure that you're not ever compensating or trying to lift anything with your low back. So, what we're going to do first is we're going to move our arms out into an A position. We're going to move our arms out into a T position. From here, we're going to flex the glutes, keeping the forehead on the ground, and we're going to lift those arms up off the floor as high as we can. You're going to notice the shoulder blades squeeze towards the mid-back. Holding for 3, 2, 1, and down. From here, we're going to move up to a Y position. And then we're going to lift again, pulling those shoulder blades back to lift those arms up off the ground. 2, 1, and relax. Last one, up to the I position. And one last time, make sure you squeeze your glutes, lift your arms for 3, 2, 1, and down. We'll go ahead and return back to the A position. We're going to do one more round through these. Go ahead and lift your shoulder blades. 3, 2, 1, relax. Now what we're doing here is we are actually getting the muscles of the shoulder blades to work in very specific positions. This is what we would call an end range position. So we're taking our shoulders up over our head into these Y positions, and then we're asking all those muscles to contract and have control over what the shoulder blades are doing and what the shoulder joint is doing. Very good. Our next exercise is going to be very similar, but instead of holding in very specific positions, we're actually going to be doing a much more dynamic motion. So what we're going to do, this one is called the swimmer's hover. The same rules apply. Forehead on the ground, glutes will be flexed anytime you move. We're going to start with our hands in our low back in this handcuff type position. And what we're going to do next is we're going to lift the hands off the low back, then we're going to straighten our elbows to come into this A position, and then we're going to slowly sweep the arms up overhead to that I position that we were just in. Good. And then we're going to sweep them right back. Notice that her arms are just naturally rotating inward and outward to let her do the motion. Bending the elbows, hands back in the low back to a resting position. Let's do that one more time. So you're going to lift your hands first, straighten your elbows, sweeping those arms up, letting your arms just naturally rotate to let you get your arms overhead. And sweeping them back to that starting position. Nice, slow, and control. Your butt should be flexed, your forehead should be on the floor. Bending the elbows, placing the hands back in the low back, totally resting. With that one, you may feel tightness in the muscles around the shoulder blade. You may also feel tightness in the joints of the mid-back. You may also feel some hitching or catching as your shoulder blade is moving along your ribs. That's all okay. As you work on this motion, the muscles get better control over what those bones are doing, and that stuff should get better. Very good. And that wraps up our upper body mobility workshop. Thank you again for attending. A few things about the shoulder. A lot of these can be very difficult for us, especially in a population like ours. We spend a lot of time at our desk working on computers. So shoulder movements may be very, very challenging for you. If that was you today, I would really encourage you to work to complete the Total Body Cars workshop. That'll give you much more exposure to moving your shoulder joints through a full range of motion and really starting to get control of all that motion as well. A couple things to remember as you're working on these. You want to keep control over your motions. You're moving very slow, owning every little motion that you do. You also want to keep total body tension. We're really trying to get those shoulder blades to move along the rib cage, trying to get the shoulder joints to stay in control wherever they're going. Lastly, I want you to find those positions where you do feel some restrictions and really work into those. That's where a lot of progress is made, finding those tight areas and really working into them, asking them to go just a little bit further each time. If you have any more questions about mobility in general, specifically mobility about your shoulder, I would encourage you to read the attached document of this workshop. If you had any pain in the shoulder joint as you're doing these exercises, you may also feel free to reach out to one of us in the Motion Health team. Thank you very much and have a good day.